Welcome, those of you to another Big Mike and Little Ant. This is a special review of James Bond 25, aka No Time to Die. We got a special guest on, one of the originators, my guy, Mr. Josh Waring, podcast extraordinaire, one of the guys who got us all started. What's up, Josh?
Yo, what up, Big Mike? Thank you so much for that intro. Thank you so much for hosting me on this lovely platform. Guys, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And where is Little Ann at? He not see the movie?
He didn't see it. He said he didn't see the last two before that, so
Okay, that's
he
fair.
wants to be, because as we'll get into, there is continuity within these Bond films. So
There is, but unfortunately, he may not be able to see it in theaters because,
yeah, it's leaving soon.
yeah.
Yeah, so it is of that's concerned. But let's just talk about before we even get into it. 'Cause I like to start from the beginning. You and your history and love of Bond, and then this Daniel Craig, specifically his Bond stuff like that. So
Absolutely. And that's a wonderful, preamble, if you will, Miguel, because
yeah,
for
hold on.
me, it
I'm
started
still
with
here.
my mom. I'm not gonna
Okay,
lie. I can't see you for whatever reason.
keep
I'm not
talking,
sure.
keep talking, keep
All
talking.
right, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
It started with my mom because she's a massive Bond fan, and she's a Trekkie, and I'm a massive Bond fan and a Star Wars fan, but respect for Star Trek because of her, right? But in terms of like fantasy and whatnot, my
Mhm.
mom has an amazing imagination, just like my dad. So my dad loved Bond, my mom loved Bond. We would all go to Bonds together. My mom would hide my eyes when they had the sex scenes.
Right,
It
right,
was one
right.
of those things. But for me, it started as a only child with a massive imagination and a massive amount of time to explore that imagination, you would always find yourself in situations like Bond in your imagination, like, oh, I'm going to save the day, get the girl in some exotic, destination. And you had elements of that and this entire, let's say, Craig Bond verse, if you
Hmm.
will, because I think they were really trying to think forward and compete with Marvel. We understand Universal is coming up with their own monster verse for
Hmm.
characters like Dracula. We already saw the Mummy as well, so it's things like that. But for me, Bond always represented an adventure, a form of escapism, as all content and media is. But for the most part, a great adventure, and what I loved, they always tied in credible threats going on in the world. So obviously you had Pierce Brosnan towards the tail end of things like the Cold War, which is
Hmm.
why you see all the Russian villains.
Right.
And then towards the end, it became more, let's say, North Korean based villains, things like that. So you
Hmm.
always have modern villains, which makes it relevant, which I think is the best part of Bond. It's the relevancy. It's the ultimate relevancy. Like Jay-Z, who just started his Instagram
He
yesterday.
did. Yes, yes,
By the
yes.
way, I can't wait to hear your review about the movie. Me and Chloe about to see The Harder They Fall. Watch it after this
Yeah. I did put a little snippet on my timeline if you saw or not about it,
on
but
Facebook. Oh yeah, I
yeah.
saw that. I was like, okay. But
Yeah.
that timeless, sophistication, charm, which I think is a great, um, I would say, a great role model for men who we'll get into it later, but in society sometimes is often vilified to be men. We see what happened to the Ari Gold character, and I'll be making some parallels, going forward.
All right. Yeah, that's a good idea about the harder they fall. I think I'll try to do a review of my man E. Good call on that. But anyway, so fast forward, you were a child getting into it. I also liked, the Bond films, Pierce Brosnan as a kid, Tomorrow Never Dies, Die Another Day. The Bond video game is a classic on
Golden Eye and
GoldenEye.
64. Yo, if it
Yeah,
wasn't for that, there would be no Halo.
I agree. I definitely agree.
By the
GoldenEye.
way, I have my props ready as well.
Nice, nice. Nice. And well, speaking of one of the movies, let's fast forward now. You're an adult now. 2006, they announced there's a new Bond. It is Daniel Craig. Doesn't look like a traditional Bond, but what was your anticipation? What were your thoughts about that at the time? The new
Probably
one.
like the headlines, Bond is blonde. I was like, whoa, blonde hair, blue eyed. Usually it's dark hair, blue eyed, or just dark hair, dark eyed.
Right, right.
Any one of those modes that is more of a let's say like maybe like an Irish or Scotsman, that type of traditional look, but of sophistication, because he grew up in that area where
Mhm.
most people are brunette instead of blonde, which
Right.
it coincided. But I respected the vision after I saw Casino Royale and saw Daniel Craig's performance, because similar to, let's say, Kevin Feige, the MGM producers, the Broccoli and everyone who produced these
Mhm.
films, they do their due diligence as well. So they're not just going to cast anyone, and they
Right.
understand the amount of scrutiny. There's always scrutiny the first time they're cast. They had the big announcement. He came down on the River Thames right in front of the film version of MI6, right in front
Right.
of that, and they landed right there, which is ironic, right? It was like so much foreshadowing, like Kevin Feige, though. But
Right,
I
right.
appreciate the attention to detail throughout all of them. And of course, you had wonderful directors like Sam Mendes and Skyfall and whatnot. So
Yeah.
it had great aspects of all the Bonds throughout each movie, which I appreciated.
Yeah, and we'll get to your ranking of him later on, actually. And Sam Mendes, shout out to him. He's like a baby Christopher Nolan. Sam Mendes, he's pretty good, actually.
Which I'm sure everyone knows is my pick to be the next Bond director, because I'm not sure if you saw, Miguel. I was very excited about this, but Hans Zimmer did the film score, and we all know how much Christopher Nolan loves working with Hans Zimmer
Mhm.
and having the same type of people. So,
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. And I too, I did like Casino Royale. And just to like throw my thoughts on it, like I liked it as a film. I was a huge Brosnan fan. Maybe those that like childlike I mean that child in me. I like the gadgets of Brosnan. I like the bravado of him. I like the smoothness that he had. Craig was a little bit rough around the edges, but still could be smooth. But I did
right.
think they did a good job. It's kind of, I mean, it's hard a lot of times to have a character be that around that long and revamp the character and to be successful, because everybody's always used to what they're already seeing, and that sometimes is very very hard. You see it in like a Marvel comics, like with different or not Marvel, but comic characters, different iterations of comic characters, stuff like that. I like,
Exactly.
some people like James McAvoy, some people like Patrick Stewart as Professor X. All
I mean,
depends on.
there's only one Patrick Stewart. Stop playing. Jean-Luc Picard. Stop playing. There's only one.
I mean, I agree, but some people like James McAvoy and Professor X. I mean, younger people, I guess. I don't know,
But
but
but ironically, to me that's a great connection, because I always love Bond, and of course you guys can't see that, but most people know that I'm a massive Batman fan. So we got Bruce Wayne back here.
yeah,
So for me, Bond was a combination of Batman and Sherlock Holmes.
okay, okay, that
So
makes
you
sense.
have, and in terms of how the story is portrayed, usually all of those roles, in terms of entertainment and in the media, is a revolving door of high level talent who play those roles on screen, either on TV or in film.
This is true. Now, so we got Casino Royale. I mean, I'm sorry. Yeah, was it? Yeah, Casino Royale, and then it was, what was next? Quantum of Solace, right?
Yes.
Right, and then you got to help me out. Was it Skyfall? Yeah, Skyfall,
Skyfall, then
and then
Spectre.
Spectra, and then No Time to Die. Right. Okay. So, so fast forward all the way up to what we're here for. Talk about No Time to Die. We can be here all night talking about the other bonds. So, No Time to Die. It's announced it's going to be this Bond 25. Craig official last movie. Were you ready for this? Sad about it? Thought he could do more movies? How do you feel about it being Craig's official last movie?
I mean, I always assumed that Spectre was going to be his last one, because he always said, "I'd rather, slit my wrist than do
Yeah, do
another
another one.
film."
Right,
And
right,
to be fair, he's doing his own stunts. Well, not all of them, but he's doing enough stunts where he's breaking his ribs. So, food for thought. This is
right,
why
right.
his wife, shout out to Rachel Wise, who didn't want him to do it anymore because of the physical toll. So again, I always respected that, because he for a Bond, I would say he was longer in the tooth.
Right.
And
At this point,
being and,
yeah.
and as you alluded to earlier, as we saw in Casino Royale, because Jazz only likes action movies, but he liked this Bond because as he would say, this Bond could get busy.
Right,
Like,
right,
he's very action oriented physically, like
right,
grappling, fighting, as
right,
opposed to just shooting, which is
right,
most of the Bonds.
right. I agree. So yeah, so you must have been excited that he did do one more. Then I guess the fact that after Spectre.
Well, if we're going to be completely transparent, I think we all knew Sony, they had a plan that was not greenlit. So they were like, we gotta have you do another one, and we'll give you a bonus, like like a pay rise. So I think they
Right.
gave him like, usually he was getting like 5 or 12 million. This time I think he
Yeah.
got like between 18 to 20. So you know,
See, for me, I didn't like, and I'm gonna go backwards before this movie. I didn't think Spectre was great, so I'm kind of happy the another one. At the end of the day, I
okay,
thought it was decent, good, but I didn't walk away from Spectre feeling like, wow, it was wild, as you were earlier films. And then, I thought like this was a chance to kind of like plan to have to go out the way you want to go out, rather than say, I'm done with the franchise. It's always better if you could plan it. I feel like, you know what I mean. So.
absolutely. We all love that continuity, especially the long term vision of producers. So what did you think about Skyfall?
I finally did watch Skyfall. I like Skyfall. I didn't like Spectre. I mean, I'm not. I didn't. It just wasn't great. I just put it like that. My only issue, um, which I'll get to, or which I mentioned the other day, about this Bond in particular, and I like Daniel Craig. He's a good guy, a great actor. Knives Out, one of my favorite movies right now. Like I love Knives Out.
Got to come out
Um,
with a second one too.
they are a whole franchise based off that character. So I like him. I do like aspects of him, but at the end of the day, Pierce Brosnan is still my favorite. And the reason I think not Pierce Brosnan, but that Bond, I think loved being Bond, where I never felt like the Daniel Craig's Bond actually loved being Bond. I think he
Right.
did it. He was good at it, but didn't like love the job almost because he spent several films either retiring, trying to retire, trying to quit. Like he spent several films doing this, so it's almost like he never wanted to. Because the first film, he's like, I guess it's like supposed to be like his rookie year. I guess like that in the first film, right? Casino Royale.
Thank you, Miguel, because this is why I appreciated all the Daniel Craig films, 007 films as a whole, because it showed him from beginning, like him becoming Bond to
Right,
literally spoiler the end of Bond.
right.
So I thought that it tied a nice bow on it. So I appreciate it as a collective work. But as you said, there's issues with each one.
Right, because then even when he had the first girl, what was her name again? The one that died,
Vesper Lynn. And
Vesper Lynd.
I have to shout out, Claudish. She actually made me a Vesper Lynn themed martini, shaken not stirred.
Nice. Shout out to Claudius and whatnot. Um, but even after that, when he was retiring with her after the first one, I'm like, you just became Bond. You already out? Like, you know what I mean? And then of course, we know what happened with her, stuff like that. And he came to series. So I just didn't like the fact that he never like got to me a chance to be like he loved being Bond. But there's great aspects of him now. Throughout the series, I love, the lady M that he had.
Yep.
Um and
Absolutely.
and also this Ralph Fiennes, I believe. He's
Absolutely. Because he's actually Voldemort in Harry Potter.
yeah, and he's also in what's the series? The Kingsman
The
series too.
Kingsman, right?
Yeah. So he's just a good actor. I feel like so I like him. Money Penny. There's just a lot of Felix is great throughout the whole time. You know what I mean? Felix is always great.
Voice of the Watcher. Shout out to Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah. Felix Leiter, stuff like that. Yeah, Felix is in other Bonds too, right? I believe. Like
He
other.
is, but he's a different looking gentleman. And Halle Berry was the female version.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay, got it. But yeah. Now I will say the thing about, like I said, the good thing about it, you just alluded to it. He got to start as Bond rookie year and put it in a nice little bow.
And not again, and to your point that you just brought up, which is brilliant. Usually the bonds are, I'm not going to say evergreen because it's a specific time period, but they're often in different segments of his career, right?
Yeah,
But for this one, they were all chronological within a 5 to 6, 7 year period.
yeah. So I did like that because even with Die Another Day, which was Brosnan's last Bond, nobody knew it was gonna be his last Bond. So
Right.
the film wasn't made like it was gonna be his last Bond, and that's always a problem. I feel like.
And the fact that it took 15 years,
Yeah,
that's why he was really long in the tooth in terms of bonds, because that's a decade and a half. of doing
Yeah,
those type of stunts. Usually that's not the case.
yeah. It's funny because him and your boy Henry Cavill were both up for this Bond right now, and Craig won the job.
And I think they made the right decision. We'll get into that later.
I mean, I agree with that part. Even though maybe Cavill would have been doing a lot longer because he's a lot younger. But yeah, I agree with you on that part. Um, now, No Time to Die. This one that came out. And I saw it. It's about 2 hours and 30 something minutes. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed almost every moment of it. Bond's score is always amazing. Obviously, it never misses
Disappoints.
disappoints at all. And it starts out with action from the beginning. So, like, I was gonna go to the beginning of the movie. How'd you like the opening of the film? When they first when I get to the Bond part. The dun 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 dun. Something about.
Absolutely. So this is the quintessential Bond opening scene. So it's similar and formulaic, similar to Star Trek, where you have a massive action scene, and Bond's is usually spectacular. It's not going to be the best action film in the scene, but it's going to be in the top 1% of all the best action films in the movie, which I think is fantastic. So this one was great as well. As you alluded to, he was on his third of retirement vacation.
Basically, yeah.
And of course, in that lifestyle, you could never find solace, ironically, to use the Bond pun here, and to use Blofeld's reference and Spectre. Madeline is truly the only woman who could love and understand Bond to live that type of lifestyle, even though she doesn't want to live it anymore. Da 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 da. But that's the only one who could understand them, which is poetry.
Madeline's the girl he was with, right?
Yes, the blonde who was in Mission Impossible.
And yes, okay. So to mention her, she had like a little side story of her origin, a little bit.
Exactly. I thought that was fantastic as well.
That's what I asked you about. So what do you think about that? The side plot from her and her story. Yeah.
I mean, what I always knew there was going to be an origins of her. I just didn't think it would be in the beginning. So that was a fun surprise. I came into the film expecting the origin story, especially since she was going to continue into the next film, because not that many Bond characters who are love entrants
Correct.
are in more than one films. So not only was it chronological, it essentially took place similar to Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace almost immediately after the previous film.
Okay, that's cool, and we'll get to some of your if you had any gripes later on as well. And I'll get to mine, or you might tell me when I ask you about your likes and dislikes as well. How did you like Lashana Lynch, the new 007 in this movie? What do you think about that aspect?
Well, I thought it was great only because they made it seem different in the trailer. So that to me, I thought that was cool because they threw people off intentionally. Like, you're going to go in expecting, oh, it's going to be like this, but then it was different. Because of course, if you see a trailer, and Tony Stark Jr. alludes to this all the time, you don't want to get too much into the film before you see it. So I think that part was a good twist. And her being having a lot of hubris, let's say, being very cocky and flamboyant, as you would expect a male Bond to behave.
Uh-huh.
She was illustrating that as a female Bond, the new 007,
Yeah, I
which is
thought she.
just the title, by the way. There's a 008, 00. And our irony is you never hear about 001 because you think 001 is one bad mother. You feel me?
Right.
Like he's only the seventh.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I never. I thought she did a good job. Like, they did kind of throw you off with the trailer, but I thought Lashana Lynch, shouts out to her. She was in Captain Marvel too, obviously. And but I thought she did a wonderful job in her role. She's also in that movie we watched with Michael B. Jordan. She was a sergeant or something like that recently.
Right.
Yeah. So I think she's just like, I think she's a good physical actress. I think she's good going along, and I think her and Craig had good chemistry as well. Now I want to talk about a person who I thought was really really well, but they only gave her a smaller part, and that was Anna de Armas, and she was the lady who was helping him in that I think it was Spain maybe, but she was the one that they called as like his helper. She had the dress on when they were all dressed up and stuff like that, the Spanish lady. But she only had like two small scenes. But I thought she was pretty good. What do you think about her?
Oh yeah. I mean, you always need an exotic Bond girl. So she got to have her Bond girl moment. And of course, they had that connection from Knives Out, which I thought was great.
Correct. Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah. And it's funny because seeing her in Knives Out as like this little caretaker lady, I would never expect her to be a Bond girl later on and stuff like that. Like, it definitely.
Well, when you see the origin of her, let's say her origins, it makes sense
Okay. Gotcha.
where she's from. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. It makes sense. Now, villain. You can't have a Bond movie without a Bond villain, right?
Rami,
So, Rami Malek.
which I was first introduced to him from Mr. Robot, which is a fantastic show on USA, or it was on USA. It might be on Peacock now or whatever. But
Gotcha. I just watched him
oh yeah,
this year in The Little Things with Denzel Washington as his partner, actually,
nice.
in that movie. And Rami's a good actor, I feel like. But what'd you think of him as a villain and his purpose and what his motivation was, I guess.
The irony is we never get to understand his full purpose. Of
No.
course, there was an element of revenge, similar to Blofeld, who loved James more than him as his a real son, let's say. But this is one of the first Bond villains who don't actually give us the whole spiel, right? Because he let Blofeld give his speech in Spectre, but eventually cut him off because I was like, all right, it's pretty simple. You can do away with that, which I thought was very clever because the whole inception of Austin Powers was actually made on the premise of James Bond as being a
It
total
was.
spoof of that.
Right. Even
And
the whole thing, Goldfinger, Goldmember, it was all the same thing. Yeah.
absolutely. And actually, the James Bond originally was a comedy. So the spy was actually American. And
Gotcha.
well, in terms of film, of course, you have the Ian Fleming novels, but when they first brought it to the screen, it was actually like a spoof film similar to Austin Powers. I think was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it is too. But we also do see a villain return in this
Blofeld.
movie. Yeah, Blofeld. And how you think about them incorporating him in the movie in this one?
I mean, I rewatched Spectre and
Okay.
Close Off for the first time. So after rewatching that, I was very curious to see how his role would be in this film. So I came into the film anxious to see how he would be presented and what would happen. And it was again interesting that someone else who was clever and strategic as him actually got the best of him as a super villain. It was just crazy.
Yeah, because you got a whole organization, right? Spectre. It's like a huge. It's like different
Yeah,
parts
he's
sectors of.
basically Moriarty, that same
Yeah,
type of character to
yeah,
tie in Sherlock Holmes again, or the
yeah,
Joker. He's the Joker.
yeah. And there's several different wherever it could be a Spectre anywhere. You never know what it's going to be at, something like that. Yeah. It's pretty.
Exactly.
He's pretty cool. Okay, we pretty much talked about the characters. I thought Moneypenny was underused in this one. Honestly,
Yeah,
what
I
the fuck?
was surprised and disappointed in that because she had such a key role in Skyfall and Spectre. So
Right. Do you like the Ralph better as M, or do you like I forget her name? The older
Judi
lady.
Dench, of
Judy
course.
Dench. Yeah, Judy. What am I thinking? Yeah, Judy Dench. Yeah.
Now, to be fair, this is why I love about the entire storyline because in the original Sean Connery type of Bonds, M was a man, similar to
Oh.
this one. So this is why they're tying it all together. That I appreciate. That's like Easter eggs, fan service, but in a I would say in a natural way because Judy Dench, and all respect to her, was getting up there, right? And then you had a younger Q,
Hmm.
which is interesting. So that again, that made more sense to be more modern and be of the times because you have technology and whatnot.
Right.
So to me, it was great to have an M who was a man and who it kind of just made sense. And again, I like him as a character anyway from Harry Potter.
All right. So, and you mentioned Q. What how you like the gadgets, the cars in this movie? Do you like any of that stuff?
To me, the gadgets were incredibly understated. They to me the gadgets have a trajectory of going downhill
I
because
agree.
there's less of them and
They're more grounded now in these films. I feel like.
exactly, which again is unfortunate because that's what the core Bond fans go to. Okay, what gadgets are we going to
And you
see?
would expect, right? Because it's
Yeah,
2021, they'd be able to create cooler stuff as they did in 1975 and stuff like that. But they had, I think me personally, bringing more gadgets back in the newer film, in the future films, it'll be good for like to bring more a younger core even back into it, of the Bond franchise. I feel like,
Absolutely.
in my opinion. All right, talking about your likes. What dislikes do you have about this film?
Too many political agendas that diverted the purpose of the franchise.
About this, now, is that about this film or the whole franchise?
The Bond franchise as a whole going
Okay,
forward.
okay, gotcha. Too many political agendas diverting the focus. So what?
So essentially, and again, this is where I'm going to bring in Ari Gold. Characters like Ari Gold and James Bond are very hard to exist in the modern
Correct.
feminist liberal media. It's just the reality. It's
I see what you
it's
mean.
very hard for them to be themselves, and they would get canceled. So you have to pander to them in order, and you get a bigger audience anyway in terms of like marketing and demographics. I get it, but the quintessential Bond. Guys want to be him, girls want to be with him. We all know people like that who fit that category, and you don't have to pander to a certain audience. They are that character. They are that maverick, and it kind of went away from that. However, that's also the trajectory of the character, which is why I was okay with it. I was somewhat disappointed because that's what a Bond film was all about. But Daniel Craig had his own, and the production had their own view of it, their own view of how this Bond should be. And again, as an artist, I respect that. I respect that vision. But I think this film specifically, No Time to Die, had too many involvement of political agendas, which was unfortunate because usually Bond is known for smashing those, which makes it entertaining.
Yeah, I don't think he even had a sex scene in this movie. Actually, No Time to Die, which is
Exactly. And this is his baby mother. Come on.
which is like unbond. Like I agree. Like throughout the years, it didn't make any sense to me. So you said, but the focus. So you think the focus should be what would you summing up the focus of these movies that they should be
Wait, as a whole or just
as a
the
whole?
franchise?
The franchise as a whole, yeah.
Well, for those who don't know, James Bond was actually created by Ian Fleming, who's a novelist, and he was a novel similar to a Sherlock Holmes or similar to Harry Potter, similar to Lord of the Rings. It's a book franchise. And he was based upon Ian Fleming's career in World War either one or two, and or his associates who would do these action-filled missions of espionage, true espionage, literally jumping out of a plane and then going to ski. People actually did that, and they actually have it on film. Is ridiculous, but these are the things that they would do. So for me, it was more about that aspect of the franchise because this is why people are going to the movies to have this form of, as I alluded to before, escapism. It's a fantasy. And this is why people go to the movies to escape reality. This is why movies are as powerful and entertainment is as powerful as it is. So you actually want to get away from that. You don't want to enter the film with you because then it's just like, oh.
You know what? You make a good point, man. Like that part is getting lost in our movies overall. Escapism, that we're escaping our reality. That this is not reality. You know what I mean? And that just because the Bond is maybe a little misogynistic or he's very
Toxic masculinity, they love that term.
all that stuff. But that's a character from a novel who's now on screen. Like it's not actually Daniel Craig. So I feel like that. Yeah, we so many. I agree with you. So many agendas. It's hard to make some of these films. Some of the ones we love.
And the crazy part is James Bond specifically, contrary to Ari Gold, the character, James Bond specifically is the perfect blend of gentleman, let's say a womanizer, and someone who is essentially an assassin. So they always have that blend of being, sometimes incredibly cold, but also very romantic and respectful as well, right? It's not his fault that ladies will always want to be in his presence in that way. How is that his fault? And there's so many characters in, films or people in real life who exude these type of traits that everyone's okay with them having those traits. It's just who they are. So it's just the Bond being Bond, and that's it.
Yeah, no, I kind of definitely agree with that overall. Like, I watched Bond by myself on a Thursday evening when it first came out, but that was almost 3 hours. So that's an escape, right? Because I'm just in the movies by myself.
Right.
escaping my reality. There's nothing else going on around me, and I'm just enjoying it. So I should be able to watch this without thinking about an agenda that's forthcoming. So I agree with that. Let me ask you this um, about the about No Time to Die. Spoiler alert: Craig Bond does die at the end of the
Yes.
film. Stuff like that. How did you feel? Did you feel like he should have died? Or how did you feel with the actual death that happened?
So I'm conflicted in the tradition. In the traditional Bond sense, Bond never dies
Right,
per se, right?
right,
But in this instance, I understand because the again, all the films as a whole and where this was going in terms of the trajectory of the character, in addition to Daniel Craig's distaste for playing the film, because there is only one way you can make it finite. Because Bond, essentially, as I said, is virtually evergreen, so it's indefinite,
right.
and this is why you have the
Character.
revolving
Okay.
doors. But this they essentially made it into a Bond verse, which I appreciated. So as a whole work of art, I appreciate it. In terms of No Time to Die, it kind of had to break the mold of other Bonds in order to achieve that ultimate climax and ending. So in terms of, again, like I said, as a work of art, fantastic. As a traditional Bond lover and Bond goer, that part I was disappointed about. I was like, damn, because that's the essence of Bond. That's what makes Bond being able to escape. So he essentially had every reason, and this is me thinking logically, right? You had every reason to at least try to leave.
Hmm.
All right, so okay, you can't. A spoiler alert: he contracts the nanobot disease that
Right.
killed Blofeld, and these nanobots are similar to the type of technology uh that having viruses that impact people with a certain gene. So these were even more, let's say, specified because they were nanobots, and they would attack and kill people with a certain gene or a certain type of DNA.
Within a small radius, if you close them. Right. Yeah.
Exactly. So okay, you can't be near them, but you can still be a figure for them,
Right.
type of thing. Like there's so much else to live for, especially to see her grow up. Come on, you kidding me?
Right.
There was so much to live for, and he's gotten out of it for less.
Yes, that's true.
So
He
this is
did.
the ultimate chance for him to survive. Like, oh, this is a reason for me to get out of here. Because let's be honest, he could have ran away. He could at least gotten to the water and jumped in. There's so
Yeah,
many things he could have did. At least to attempt.
I agree. Yeah, the death itself didn't, wasn't logical to me. I was okay with him dying, right? So two different conversations. I was okay with him dying to kind of end the franchise, and I think it made like a heartfelt send off. But the death itself wasn't logical, so it made you feel like, yo, Bond wouldn't do this. Like this was more written than the characters. It wasn't. It wasn't. They didn't write the character what that character would actually do. The character we've known for the last 15 years, with Craig's Bond and over 40 years for Bond in general. So I feel like
I
that's.
think actually 60.
Oh, I'm sorry. You might be right. You're right. You're right. Yeah, yeah. 70, yeah, 60 years. You're right. Yeah, yeah. So I just feel like that. That's not true. But I guess they had to tie a bow. So that probably means that if Craig's Bond is dead, then they come back with more Bonds. They got to start all over. New M, new Q, new Money Penny, everything, right? I would think.
And that actually made me feel bad for the new Q, the new M, and the new Money Penny because it's like, damn, they signed on, you know, but Daniel Craig he had enough. So that
Right.
again, that happens in Hollywood. It's a franchise, and to be fair, Daniel Craig gave a lot to that franchise, like a whole lot, 15 years.
I mean, I agree. I mean, and when it comes to roles where you got to stay in shape and stuff like that, I mean, he's in his almost 50 now. Or is he 50 already? Close to it.
Yeah, I think he's 56 or something like that.
Yeah, I think that it's just like, you get tired. You know what I mean? Like if you look at Detective Blanc and Knives Out, he don't got to be in shape for that and still be a great detective and stuff like that. So I think it kind of works a different way. So you were saying earlier that you were happy with the choice of him over Cavill. Why was that?
For me, Henry Cavill is a little bit too nice looking.
Okay,
Because again, remember, he is Superman, which is essentially the Boy Scout of superheroes. He's,
right.
to me, the antithesis of Batman. Batman's more of a darker character, and Superman's he's essentially the Captain America. of DC. So to me, that's like Steve Rogers being James Bond. That to me, that doesn't make sense. Or Steve Rogers being Batman. It just doesn't feel right to have that person as that type of character. It just didn't make any sense. However, I will say, if MGM tries to buy some time, I can totally see someone like Henry Cavill playing a Bond character in previous years, because I think he's fantastic at that. Like if you go back in time as Bond, I think that would be interesting. If you go,
he was good in wasn't he in The Man from Uncle, I think, or something like that?
Oh, he was superb in that, absolutely, and he was in Mission Impossible as well.
He was with the mustache he had to cut from Justice League. Yeah, I remember that actually. So, okay, so we'll get to that a little later on. This movie right here. Let's start with this. How would you rate it, 1 to 10, if you were rating it?
Because of nostalgia, is getting an 8.
Okay.
But and again, as I said before, what I liked about it, how it tied everything together the same way that Marvel would. So it was literally, they created a mini Bond verse, if you will, that it tied in all the Bond films. So that I appreciated as a Bond fan, and since I love the franchise. But as a specific movie, I would have probably gave it a 7.
Okay.
Probably 6.5, 7. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Lower. So was it the villain, the motivation, the action? Why so low? 6.5, 7 for you on this movie by itself?
Because it wasn't a Bond film.
Gotcha. Okay.
But in terms of a work of art for a Bond character in 5 films, 8.
So because what we talked about earlier, the agenda, some of the other stuff, it made it less of a Bond film to you.
I mean, you had so many elements that didn't exist. Like you said, a James Bond film without a love scene.
Right.
That's an oxymoron.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. I thought it was as a film. Now, I still haven't seen every film in the franchise. I think I'm still missing one, maybe.
Probably Quantum of Solace.
Quantum of Solace. So, I'm gonna go. So I'm not rated off of that as a whole. Just off this film alone, I'm gonna go with an 8 for me. I thoroughly enjoyed the film. I thought if I was watching a smooth, I'm taking away from the Bond franchise of it all, and even beyond Daniel Craig, this is the Bond film, but this is like a smooth spy film. I thought it hit most of the beats it needed to hit. I thought that the action was good. The villain's motivation is never great in these movies to me, honestly. So, but there's only so much you can do over and over again. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you get some in like Marvel films, but this was just okay. But I felt like that, they let him meet all his see previous characters like Felix and, MQ, Moneypenny, like we talked about before. I thought it was a good movie. Like, again, I sat there when I left the movie. I didn't feel like I was missing anything, but I felt like it could have been better still. So I'm gonna go with an 8. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
That makes sense.
For you, Josh, who's seen all 5, and I can't do this obviously. How do you rank them? The 5 Daniel Craig films.
Okay, let me get them all out. First one would be Skyfall.
Okay.
Second would be Casino Royale, which is the first one.
Right.
Third one would be Spectre. Fourth one would be No Time to Die, and the last one would be Quantum of Solace. People really don't like Quantum of Solace.
I think because after Casino Royale, and I haven't seen it yet, but what I'm hearing is that they expected so much more from Quantum of Solace, and it was like it didn't deliver like the sequel they wanted to see. So.
I would agree. The plot is disappointing. But the execution of it is great from the actors,
right?
And the locations. I thought that those are great in terms of production, but in terms of a movie as a whole, yeah.
But I'm surprised you got Spectre so high. Actually, number 3.
Oh yeah, I love Spectre.
Really? Okay, gotcha. I wasn't really, like I said, it was only. Gotcha.
Got this from when Chloe took me to Spyscape in New York, and it had a Skyfall exhibit or James Bond exhibit with the car.
Wait, back up. What's this called? Spyscape?
Yes.
What do they have there exactly?
It's essentially a pop-up exhibit in New York City where you get to It's actually, it reminded me a lot of the International Spy Museum in
Okay,
DC. That would
gotcha.
again, that would be another great mental theater outing, as would Spyscape,
Right,
where you essentially go and you go through exhibits of actually real spies and how espionage has developed since, the American Revolution,
right, 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 right.
all the way back to places like, even in the Bible, we have Joshua as a spy who goes into
Right.
Egypt, and yet this Joshua goes to Egypt and loves spy movies. It's like, yay,
I guess you're James Bond. There you go. Something like that.
there it
Bro.
is.
All right, cool. Okay, well, yeah. Again, I'm surprised you had that pretty much. I got to check that place out, Spyscape, and the other spy museum in Washington. Um, yeah. So that's that. Those are my thoughts. So now we got to move forward. Bond 25 is done. I've asked you this before, but I just want to make sure that you're still consistent with you. Who is your picks for the next James Bond? Then?
I'm so glad you asked this question. I have my top candidates, of course. First
Okay.
one for me would be Idris Elba,
Okay.
because it seems that they do want to pander to certain agendas, but I think this is a actor who can really take a deep dive into the character, in addition to checking that box for the agendas, and in addition to being a phenomenal Bond, and being, I think, people, because so many ladies fancy Idris, right?
Mhm.
He would get away with being the womanizer in
Yes,
in this political climate that we are in terms of media.
that was your first one. What about after that?
Second one would be Tom Hardy, because of
Okay.
course, I still want Christopher Nolan to take over the franchise. If he does, he'll probably have someone like Tom Hardy. Then you can have uh people like Leonardo DiCaprio, or what's the guy who played scare scare no wait Scarecrow and Bond, who's it, the Connor Murphy, is that his name?
And Bond,
No,
Scarecrow.
and the Dark Knight,
Oh. Yeah,
Scarecrow.
he's about to be in one of his movies now, right? And
Right.
I forget his name. But go ahead, keep talking.
Because people, characters like him would be Bond villains, because he's worked with them. We all know Christopher Nolan likes to work with his same actors. So
Right.
you have Christopher Nolan, you have someone like Tom Hardy, who's already
Yeah,
on the list, and then you already
yeah,
have Hans Zimmer doing the film score. Like
yeah. It's
it's kind of like they're paving the way.
Cillian Murphy. It is. Yeah,
There we
Cillian
go.
Murphy.
And then, as
Yeah.
I said, if they do Henry Cavill, he has to be a Bond, not in modern times, but back in the day
Okay.
only.
You
And
know,
honorable mention would be Michael Fassbender.
Fassbender definitely would be in mine. And if you want to talk about the agenda, which we're talking about, uh, African Americans in movies like Bond, stuff like that, which is nothing wrong with that. I feel like.
Well,
Um,
he's a British American as well. I'm sorry,
right.
not a British citizen. He's from London, so.
Interesting. No, yeah. I'm just talking about. Okay, well, yeah, British African Americans, so British black people, put it like that. I would like somebody younger. I'm trying to think. Who would I like?
And remember, they would have to be British as well.
Yeah, but isn't what the heck's his name? Uh, what's the I can't think of his name right now.
Daniel Kaluuya.
Daniel Kaluuya. Yes, you got it. Daniel Kaluuya. He's younger. He's got plenty of time to play Bond. I could see him. He's a great. First of all, he's a great, great, great actor and stuff. I don't. What do you think? You don't like it?
It would be interesting because it would have to take a similar angle, like Idris would. It would
Yeah,
have to take a he wouldn't have he would have a different backstory. So similar to how this James Bond is an orphan and who is adopted
yeah,
by an incredibly wealthy family who's connected to everyone. That essentially would have to be the plot, but he's coming from like East London, Hackney, which is like Stuyvesant Avenue. You know what I mean? Like he would
yeah,
have to come from there and then get adopted from wealthy white people, right? Essentially.
yeah.
And
Basically,
in order to have that, and then you could still have that same, backstory. And it could fit. And again, like you said, it all has to do with the performance. It has to do with the plot. And to me, as long as you hold true to what makes Bond Bond, I think
yeah.
anything is possible.
Now,
You know,
for now,
yeah.
now think about Idris is that he's also showed that he can do the action in several roles throughout his career, where Daniel Kaluuya really hasn't, had action roles at all.
And and to me, that's my hesitance. So, because I mean, besides Black Panther, right? we really haven't seen it on that physical level because he's essentially being physical with CGI.
Right, exactly.
So in terms of grappling with another person, I'm not saying he couldn't do it, of course, right? But it'll be it. We can see Tom Hardy doing it. We can see Idris doing it. But the only thing with Idris, it's the same. It's the same issue with Craig.
Craig, the age.
Exactly.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. If I could see Kaluuya getting in, better shape and learning some of the hand-to-hand combats and just taking on the role because he's he's a good actor.
Absolutely, because he would surprise people by getting into that physical shape, similar to one of the characters who's going to be in the Eternals, who's usually
Yes.
a character who's not as muscular,
Yes.
but then he's like, oh, then he had the Chris Pratt effect, right, with
Right,
Star Lord. So
right.
it'll be like one of those, like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Camille Nanjiani talking about.
But at the same time, the future of Bond is bright though. So of course, I'm on Big Mike Little Ant channel. They are developing a video game, which I'm very excited about. It's probably going to be fantastic, and it might actually give a clue to what's going to happen in the future, or it's going to be its own separate thing. And you'll probably have one of the candidates, people like Tom Hiddleston or whoever, might be the voice of that Bond in the game.
Yeah, I just hope number one, they pick the right guy. Number two, they pick the director, obviously. And number three, they keep it as a movie. I only say this because there's so many streaming ways now. I don't want them to ever, go to like a streaming network or even try to make like a series out of it. No, just keep it as a film. Bond is a film for me. So.
To me, this is where I'm looking at it, right? Because as both Chloe and I's packages came in from Amazon Prime this week, since Amazon bought MGM Studios, which owns Bond, to me, it would make sense to have spin-off TV shows because you already have plenty of content in that genre, things like Jack Ryan or the movie you talked about, Michael B. Jordan, No Remorse, right? Who are already in that Tom Clancy espionage realm. So you already have an audience for that on Amazon. Number one. Number two, now you can have all the Bond content on there so people can stream that at will. And then number three, you already want more stuff for Amazon Video to add with the boys and things like that. So now you have a Bond series, maybe not necessarily connects to the Bond films. You could do that. You could do the Marvel thing, and as long as it pull it off and execute it, great. Or you can make his own thing, and you can have like what we talked about. We never heard of 001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. We only know about 7. So you can have a show about one of these 00s. You can even do a spin-off show with the actress who played the new 007, and she can have her own adventures on Amazon. And that'll keep people anticipating.
That I can see, yeah. I'm just saying, like, at least to let the core movie still be films and stuff like that. But I can see spinoffs, kind of like
please and thank you, because it deserves the big screen.
Right. Yeah, and just kind of like how Disney Plus has Marvel shows, but still they have films. That's all I'm asking for, is to keep it that way. But again, I told Josh we'll be under an hour, which we are. I didn't want to keep him to tonight. I appreciate you coming out for the No Time to Die spoiler review. Also, I want to ask while we got you on here, since you are going to watch The Harder They Fall tonight, let me know if you and Chloe wouldn't mind doing a review of that with me within the next week or so.
Okay, let me ask real quick. Chloe, you want to do a Harder They Fall review with Big Mike Little Ant since we about to watch it next? She said yes, so we're good.
All right, we're in. I'll probably bring in my man E for that because he watched it too.
Shout out to E.
E Money, yeah.
Oh, by the way, I thought this would be a wonderful destination vacation in the future for Mental Theater Crew. So of course you see I'm sporting my Jamaican soccer or football jersey. So Ian Fleming actually wrote the James Bond novel in Negril, Jamaica, where he actually has the Golden Eye, like it has his own area, and it's called Golden Eye. So we might want to go there one day. I think it'd be fantastic.
Yo, man, sky's the limit for the Mental Theater Crew, for me, for you, for every channel, man. Let's do it all. Why not, man? I'm gonna check out that spy place too you're talking about. So I'm down with that. And yeah, let me know when you guys are done. We'll watch that. But I want to wrap this up. I'm Big Mike. Thank you again, Josh. We'll see you guys again soon, and we're out.
All right, thanks, guys.